Is it normal for blood to come out of a cake? No. But what if that cake was a special order for the bride at her son's wedding? And what if it said, "Welcome to the family" on it? Then you realize it's not just a cake, it's a message. I thought I was just an old mother, sitting quietly in my corner, not objecting to the family's decisions, someone who could put up with anything. But when I cut that cake and dark red liquid flowed out, I realized that the biggest battle of my life had begun. And I knew I had to win this battle. Because this time, it wasn't just me who would lose, it was my son who would lose. If this story touched your soul, click subscribe and let me know in the comments which city or country you're listening from. I'm genuinely curious where you're watching from. I'm grateful to everyone who comments. My name is Martha Whitmore. I'm 68 years old and live in a small Victorian-style house in Portland, Oregon. Every morning, I water the lavender in my garden, have breakfast with my cat Mr. Whiskers, and read old novels in the afternoons. It may seem like an ordinary life, but it's the life I chose. After losing my husband 10 years ago, I learned to keep my life simple and peaceful. My only son, Ethan, was a successful architect at 35. He was tall, dark-eyed, and handsome with his father's smile, and he was one of the rare men who called his mother every Sunday. Until he met Vivienne Calloway. Even when I first heard her name, a strange feeling came over me. Ethan was very excited on the phone. "Mom, you'll love her," he said. "She's incredible. Smart, beautiful, successful. She moved here from New York. She works at an art gallery." "How long have you known her?" I asked. There was a brief silence on the phone. 3 months. 3 months. And my son was in love. I remember how perfect Vivienne looked when we first met. Long black hair, flawless makeup, expensive clothes, and that smile. A bright, artificial smile like in teeth-whitening commercials. "Mrs. Whitmore," she said, shaking my hand. "Ethan has talked about you so much. It's wonderful to finally meet you." But her eyes didn't smile. They never had. Wedding preparations began quickly. Within 6 months, everything was planned, reservations made, invitations sent. I was kept out of the process. Vivienne preferred to leave everything to the professionals. "Martha," she said one day, addressing me by my first name for the first time instead of Mrs. "Wedding planning is very stressful. Just relax, we'll take care of it." Relax. As if I were just a guest, not my son's mother. I saw Ethan less often. Vivienne filled his time. "You're so busy, Mom," he would say on the phone. "Vivienne's family is coming. There are meetings, preparations." He never mentioned Vivienne's family. I didn't know who they were or where they were from. When I asked, Ethan gave evasive answers. "It's a small family, Mom. Only his mother is coming to the wedding." Just her mother. Where was her father? Her siblings? Her relatives? Have you ever thought about someone having no past? As if they just appeared out of nowhere, with no past, no connections. The wedding day arrived. September 15, Saturday. The ceremony was to be held at a vineyard house in the Willamette Valley. It was the first days of autumn, and yellow-orange leaves covered everything. I wore a navy blue dress, put my hair up in a bun, and wore my little pearl necklace. The necklace my husband had bought me years ago, on the day Ethan was born. When I arrived at the ceremony, I saw Vivienne, the wedding dress. It was incredible. Vintage lace, a trailing train, crystal embellishments. But her face was cold. She smiled at me, but there was that familiar emptiness in her eyes. "Martha," she said, "you look very elegant." "Thank you, Vivienne. You look beautiful too." She shifted her gaze. "I know." The ceremony began. Ethan stood at the altar, his eyes tearful, happy. When Vivienne started walking down the aisle, everyone stood up. But I was looking at her face. And what I saw shocked me. Victory! At that moment, she looked like a winner. Not a bride in love, like a general who had won a battle. The ceremony ended. The reception began. People were dancing, drinking wine, talking. I was sitting on the sidelines, a glass of white wine in my hand, watching my son. Vivienne was constantly by his side. She clung to his arm, as if she might lose him. She wouldn't let Ethan talk to anyone else. Every time he tried to talk to someone, she would interrupt and change the subject. Then it was time for the cake. A magnificent 3-tiered cake with a white fondant and gold leaf. On top, it said, "Welcome to the family" in burgundy letters. Vivienne took the microphone. "Thank you all. Today is a very special day, and I had a special cake made, both for Ethan and for my new family, especially for Martha." She looked at me. Everyone clapped. I felt a strange sensation inside. Why had she mentioned me specifically? Ethan and Vivienne cut the cake together. The knife went into the white frosting, and a dark red liquid began to flow. People were slightly surprised, but then laughed. "Oh, red velvet cake," someone said. But I knew. This wasn't red velvet. It was much darker, much more real. Vivienne looked at me and smiled. There was a message in that smile. "This is just the beginning, Martha." In the weeks after the wedding, during the honeymoon period, I heard very little from Ethan. Just 2 short messages. "We're fine, Mom, love you," and "Vivienne and I are great. Take care of yourself." I was being told to take care of myself by my own son. In mid-October, Ethan and Vivienne returned from their honeymoon. They had moved into their new home, a luxurious apartment in the city center, a place chosen by Vivienne, of course. When I visited them, I was shocked. The apartment's walls were cold white, the furniture minimalist and black. There was no warmth, no photos, no trace of Ethan's childhood, of us. "Very modern," I said as I walked in. "Isn't it?" said Vivienne. "I love minimalist living. Getting rid of the weight of the past is so important." The weight of the past. Am I that? Ethan was making coffee in the kitchen. "Mom, let me make you some coffee." "No, Ethan," Vivienne interrupted. "Martha doesn't want anything to drink. It's just a quick visit, isn't it, Martha?" She looked at me. There was a threat in her eyes. Yes, I can't stay long," I said. That day, I left within half an hour. Ethan walked me to the door. "Mom, I'm sorry," he said quietly. "Vivienne's been tired lately. She's been really busy." "Ethan," I said, looking into my son's eyes, "are you happy?" He paused. Just for a second, but I saw it. "I'm very happy, Mom," he said, but his voice wasn't convincing. November arrived. Thanksgiving was approaching. Every year we had the Thanksgiving dinner at my house. It was a tradition. It had started when Ethan's father was alive. I called Ethan and invited him. "Mom, we won't be able to come this year," he said. My heart broke. "Why?" "Vivienne's mother is coming. We'll be spending it with them." "Can I come too? We could all be together." "No, Mom. Vivienne wants a small gathering. Just the 3 of us." Just the 3 of us. I wasn't included. "I understand," I said, my voice trembling. "See you later, Mom. I love you." "I love you too, son." When I hung up the phone, I started crying. Mr. Whiskers came over to me, rubbing his head against my leg. I was alone. For the first time in my life, I truly felt alone. On Thanksgiving, I cooked a small chicken by myself at home. The TV was on, but there was no sound. I just sat there, ate, and stared at the empty wall. Have you ever felt like you've been forgotten by someone you love, as if you no longer exist for them? That night, I received a message from Ethan. "Happy Thanksgiving, Mom." Just an emoji. No call, no visit. Just an emoji. The next day, a neighbor knocked on my door. Mrs. Henderson, an elderly woman who lives across the street. "Martha," she said worriedly, "I wanted to see you. Are you okay?" "I'm fine, Dorothy," I said. "I saw you at the window last night. You were alone. Didn't Ethan come?" "No," I said. "He's spending time with his mother-in-law." Dorothy shook her head. "That girl." "Vivienne is her name?" "I never liked her, Martha. There's something in her eyes. It's like—" "Like what?" "Like she's always planning something." When December came, a cold fog settled over Portland. The city was gray and gloomy. just like the feeling inside me. My communication with Ethan had almost completely ceased. My calls went unanswered. My messages met with one-word replies. I'm fine. I'm busy. I'll call later. But he never called. One day, while I was at the local grocery store in town, I overheard something strange while talking to the cashier. Two women waiting in line behind me were whispering. I heard about Vivienne Calloway. She's the new bride, right? Yes, she married an architect. Ethan. Was his name Whitmore? Yes. You know, someone recognized her. She was in Seattle before New York. She got married there too. I froze. I almost dropped my shopping cart. Married? What happened to that marriage? I don't know, but the woman said her husband left her everything 10 months later, the company, the house, everything. Then he disappeared. Isn't that strange? This Vivienne seems to be getting into men's lives. Just then, the women noticed me. They stopped talking, looked embarrassed, and quickly walked away. My heart was racing. Was Vivienne married before? Why hadn't Ethan told me about this? If you heard something unsettling about someone's past, could you just ignore it? As soon as I got home, I opened my laptop. I wasn't very tech-savvy, but I could do a simple Google search. I typed, Vivienne Calloway, Seattle. The pages loaded. A few social media profiles, a record as an art gallery employee, a wedding announcement, a newspaper clipping announcing that Vivienne Calloway and Marcus Chen had gotten married in Seattle in 2019. In the photo, Vivienne stood with the same cold smile, and the man next to her was Asian, handsome, and looked wealthy. Marcus Chen, tech entrepreneur, 42 years old. I looked into it further. I found a legal document showing that Marcus Chen had transferred his company to his wife Vivienne in 2020. Then, nothing. There was no trace of Marcus Chen. His LinkedIn profile had been deleted, his social media accounts were closed. It was as if he had vanished from the face of the earth. A terrible feeling came over me. This couldn't be a coincidence. After that night, researching Vivienne became an obsession for me. I spent hours every day searching the internet, combing through old newspaper archives, and examining public records. And what I found horrified me. Vivienne Calloway was born in 1987, but her birthplace records were inconsistent. One place said New Orleans, another said Arizona. It was as if the records had been mixed up. In 2010, I found a court record connected to the death of a young woman. Phoenix, Arizona. Vivienne Calloway, 23, was listed as the heir to her stepfather, who had died in a car accident. The man was wealthy. He was in real estate. After his death, he left everything to Vivienne. In 2015, another record in Louisiana. An elderly businessman, Theodore Brennan, 71, died of a heart attack. In his will, he left his entire estate to his beloved fiancée, Vivienne Calloway. In 2019, Marcus Chen. And now, in 2024, Ethan. What would you do when you notice a pattern, but know no one will believe you? This couldn't be a coincidence. Vivienne found wealthy men, entered their lives, and somehow took everything from them, and the men either disappeared or died. My hands were shaking. My son was in danger. But how could I tell him? Would he believe me? Or would he be under Vivienne's influence and reject me? A week later, I gathered my courage and called Ethan. Ethan, I need to talk to you. It's important. Mom, this isn't a good time. I'm in a meeting. It's about Vivienne. Silence. A long silence. What do you mean? He finally said, his voice cold. Son, please listen to me. I've learned some things about Vivienne's past. She was married before. I know, he said firmly. She told me. She had a bad relationship in the past. Her ex-husband was abusive. She ran away from him. But Ethan, this isn't just one person. There are other men, all wealthy, all who've given her everything. Enough, Mom. His voice rose angrily. Do you realize what you're doing? You're slandering my wife. She did nothing to you, and you're judging her without even knowing her. Ethan, I was just... No, you know what? Vivienne was right. She said, Your mother will never accept me, she said. Old mothers are always like that. They're afraid of losing their sons. I didn't want to believe her, but she was right. Son, please. Don't write to me for a while, Mom. I don't want to talk to you until you apologize to Vivienne. Ethan? He hung up the phone. The phone was shaking in my hands. I was crying. But these tears weren't just from sadness. There was anger, too. Vivienne had planned this. She had planned to come between us, to anger my son, to sever the bond between us. And it had worked. By the end of December, I was living through the darkest days of my life. Ethan wasn't talking to me. Christmas was approaching, and I wouldn't be able to see my son. One night, at 2 a.m, I couldn't sleep. Mr. Whiskers was meowing beside me. I decided to go downstairs and heat up some warm milk. While I was in the kitchen, my phone rang. An unknown number. Who could be calling at this hour? I answered. Hello? Mrs. Whitmore? Martha Whitmore? A woman's voice. Young, scared. Yes, it's me. Who are you? My name. It doesn't matter. But I had to call you. About Vivienne Calloway. My breath caught. I'm listening. I'm Marcus Chen's sister. Marcus? He disappeared. In 2020. 9 months after he married Vivienne. My heart started racing. What happened to him? I don't know. No one does. But he called me before he disappeared. Lynn, he said. I made a mistake. Vivienne. She's not normal. She's controlling me. She's taking everything from me. I need to escape. But he couldn't escape, Mrs. Whitmore. He disappeared 2 days later. Didn't you go to the police? We did. But there was no evidence. Vivienne had a perfect story. She said Marcus was depressed, suicidal. There were even fake psychologist reports. And then, all of Marcus's assets went to her. There was a will. But Marcus didn't write that will. I'm sure of it. How do you know? Because my brother would never have written something like that. He loved me. It's impossible that he wouldn't have left me anything. Silence. The woman was crying. Mrs. Whitmore. He finally said, Your son is in danger. Someone sent me your internet history showing you were researching. I saw your name. And I learned Vivienne had recently married. I had to warn you. Who sent it to you? I don't know. An anonymous email. But whoever it was, they want you and your son to be safe. What else do you know? Who is Vivienne? Why is she doing this? I don't know. But I do know one thing. She's a predator. She targets rich, lonely, vulnerable men. She lures them in, takes control of their lives, and then eliminates them. She leaves no evidence, no trace. But how does she do it? I don't know, Mrs. Whitmore. Maybe poison, maybe psychological games, maybe she's just a very skilled manipulator. But she does it somehow. Lin Chen gave me his number and hung up. I didn't sleep at all that night. The next morning, I made a decision. Ethan didn't believe me. I couldn't go to the police because I had no concrete evidence. But I had to do something. And that something was to keep a close eye on Vivienne. How far would you go to protect someone you love? Would you break the law? As a first step, I called Lin Chen again. We decided to work together. Lin had a detective friend, a former FBI agent, retired, but he still had connections. His name was Michael Reeves. He was 58 years old, had gray hair, and a stern gaze. He came to Portland and met with me. Mrs. Whitmore, he said, sitting in a local cafe. Lynn told me everything. We're dealing with a serious situation. But I have to tell you, this woman is extremely professional. Finding evidence will be difficult. What do you suggest I do? Keep a close watch. We need to learn Vivienne's daily routine, where she goes, who she sees, what she does. We'll wait for her to make a mistake. But my son, I'm afraid something might happen to him. Michael's face grew serious. Mrs. Whitmore, if Vivienne is truly who we say she is, your son is still safe, because she hasn't transferred her assets to him yet. Vivienne is patient. She moves slowly. She gains trust, creates dependency, and then... But we'll act before she does. January 2025. New Year. But for me, it was no new beginning at all. Michael began tracking Vivienne. Every day, he sent me photos and notes. 8:30. Vivienne left the house. She went to the art gallery in the city center. 12:45 p.m. Lunch. At a luxury restaurant. She met with a man. An older man. In his 60 seconds. Wearing a suit. He looked like a lawyer. 17. She entered a bank. Stayed inside for 45 minutes. Vivienne was planning something. But what? One day, Michael sent me an urgent message. Vivienne went to a real estate office. Ethan's office. They stayed inside for half an hour. When they left, Ethan was signing a document. My heart stopped. What document? That night, I called an old friend. Jessica Turner was a lawyer in Portland. I explained the situation to her. Martha, she said anxiously, if Vivienne is pressuring Ethan to transfer his assets, this is very serious. But we can't do anything without proof. How can I find proof? If Ethan signed a document, there should be a copy of it somewhere. At the lawyer's office, at the bank, or at their home. How can I get into their house? Jessica paused. Martha, there is something you can do, but it's not legal. Tell me. You need to go to Ethan's house, find an excuse, and you need to find that document. In February, an opportunity arose. Ethan called me. It was the first time he'd called me in months. Mom, he said, his voice tired. I'm sorry. I know I was too harsh with you. Vivienne is sorry too. She wants to make peace with you. I couldn't believe it. Really? Yes, in fact. Would you like to come over this Saturday? For dinner. Vivienne is preparing a special meal. This was an opportunity. Perhaps it was the only way to get into the house. Sure, son, I'll come. On Saturday evening, my heart pounding, I knocked on Ethan's door. Michael had given me a small recording device. Record everything, he had said. Maybe you'll hear something. The door opened. Vivienne was there, smiling. Martha, welcome. She seemed very friendly, very sincere. I went inside. The house was still cold, but this time there were cooking smells in the air. I've prepared a special dinner for you, said Vivienne. We need to make peace, don't we? Absolutely, I said, forcing a smile. Ethan was in the kitchen, opening a bottle of wine. When he saw me, he hugged me. Mom, I missed you. I missed you too, son. But Ethan was different. He was thinner. He had dark circles under his eyes. He looked tired. We sat down to eat. Vivienne had prepared a wonderful meal. Lamb, vegetables, dessert, everything was delicious. But I was paying attention. I was watching Vivienne's every move. During dinner, Vivienne spoke. Martha, I need to tell you something. Ethan and we've made a decision. My heart raced. What decision? Ethan is selling his company. We're starting over. Maybe we'll move to Europe. Paris, London. Ethan always wanted to see those places. I looked at Ethan. Is that true, son? Ethan nodded. Yes, Mom. Vivienne is right. There's too much stress here. A fresh start might be good. But the company. Your father and you built it. The memories of your father. Mom, Ethan said firmly. We shouldn't dwell on the past. We need to look ahead. Those were Vivienne's words. Her manipulation. After dinner, Vivienne brought me a glass of wine. A special wine, Martha. Italian, very rare. I took the glass but didn't drink it. I waited. Can I go to the bathroom? I asked. Sure, said Vivienne, at the end of the hallway. I got up and walked down the hallway, but I didn't go to the bathroom. I went into the bedroom. I quickly scanned the room. Where did they keep the documents? I opened the dresser drawer. Inside were photos, jewelry, but then I saw a file. I took out the file. There were documents inside, legal documents. And what I saw froze me. Asset transfer agreement. From Ethan Whitmore to Vivienne Calloway Whitmore. Ethan was transferring everything to Vivienne, The company, the house, the bank accounts, everything. And the date, it showed a month later. I took a photo of the trembling document with my phone. But just then, I heard a sound. The door was opening. Vivienne. Did you lose something, Martha? I turned around. Vivienne was standing in the doorway. She wasn't smiling anymore. Her eyes were as cold as ice. I was just... I know what you're doing, Martha. You're investigating me. You're following me. She took another step closer. But you should know that I'm watching you too. I froze in fear. I know you talked to Lin Chen. I know you hired Michael Reeves. I know everything, Martha. What did you do to Ethan? I asked, my voice trembling. I didn't do anything to him. I love him. I just made him understand that he needed me, and he understood. Now he trusts me. He gives me everything. Because I make him feel valuable. You, on the other hand, were just trying to keep him under your control. You're a liar. What did you do to Marcus? What did you do to Theodore? A terrifying smile appeared on Vivienne's face. They're my past, and the past must be buried, Martha, just like you will be. At that moment, Ethan walked in. What's going on here? Ethan, I said. Please listen to me. Vivienne is dangerous. She'll... Mom, Ethan shouted angrily. Enough! Why are you doing this? Why can't you let me be happy? Son, she's manipulating you. Look at this document. I showed him the document. Ethan looked at the document. What's the big deal? This is just a legal procedure. Vivienne and I are a team. We trust each other. But Ethan... Mom, it's time for you to go. Now. Tears streamed down my face. Son, please. Go, Mom. I left the house. I was crying. Everything was ruined. But then, an idea came to mind. If Ethan didn't believe me, maybe others would. That night I called Michael. Michael, we have evidence. We can stop Vivienne. How? Marcus Chen. We'll reopen his disappearance case, and if Vivienne is connected to these incidents, we can get the police involved. Mrs. Whitmore, this is risky. Vivienne hasn't been caught yet because she's very careful. I know, but we need to make her slip up. How? I thought about it. And then, a perfect plan came to mind. Vivienne sees me as a threat. She'll want to eliminate me. If we give her an opportunity, maybe she'll give herself away. Mrs. Whitmore, this is very dangerous. I know, but this is the only way to save my son. We made the plan. I sent Vivienne a message. Vivienne, we need to talk. Alone, tomorrow afternoon, at Waterfront Park, at 3 o'clock. Please come. We can work this out. The reply came immediately. Okay, Martha. See you tomorrow. Michael and Lynn set up hidden cameras around the park. They also called an old friend from the FBI. They would monitor everything remotely. And I wore a hidden microphone. Have you ever risked your life for someone you love? The next day, at 2:45 a.m., Portland's waterfront park was quiet. There were a few joggers, a few tourists along the riverbank, but mostly it was empty. I sat on a bench and waited. At 3, Vivienne appeared. She was wearing a long black coat. Her hair was pulled back. She looked cold and calculating. She came over and sat down. Martha, she said, I'm here. Thank you for meeting me. Vivienne smiled slightly. What do you want, Martha? I want you to leave Ethan. Vivienne's smile widened. No, he's my son. I won't let you ruin him. I'm not ruining him. I'm saving him. You were suffocating him, Martha. You had too much control over him. I gave him freedom. You're lying. You're controlling him. Just like you controlled Marcus. Just like you controlled Theodore. Vivienne's face changed. Her smile vanished. Be careful, Martha. You're treading in dangerous waters. What did you do to Marcus? Marcus was a weak man. He was depressed. He made his own decision. Liar, you killed him. Vivienne stood up. Be careful, Martha. You're making accusations. I have proof. I know everything. and I'm going to the police." Vivienne looked at me. The mask was gone from her eyes, a cold, calculating, dangerous look. "If you go to the police," she said slowly, "have you thought about what will happen to Ethan?" My heart stopped. "What do you mean?" "Ethan has been very unhappy lately. Because he's been away from his mother. He's fallen into depression. Maybe he can't handle it. Maybe there will be an accident. If you touch him—" "I won't do anything, Martha, but life is fragile. Accidents happen, especially to people who are depressed." At that moment, I understood. Vivienne was threatening Ethan, and the microphone was recording everything. "You're a monster," I said. Vivienne leaned in, her face very close to mine. "I'm a survivor, Martha. You and people like you think women should be weak and dependent. But I'm not like that. I'm strong. And strong people always win." "No, Vivienne. This time, you'll lose." Just then, Michael and 2 police officers appeared. "Vivienne Calloway," Michael said, "you're under arrest." Vivienne's face turned to shock. She looked around. She saw the cameras. She understood the microphone. This was a trap." "Yes," I said. "And you fell for it." Vivienne was taken into custody. Her homes were searched, and what was found was horrific. On Vivienne's computer were fake documents, fake wills, fake psychological reports, dozens of files about Marcus Chen, Theodore Brennan, and others. Chemicals were also found. Poisons. Slow-acting, undetectable poisons. The kind that could mimic natural deaths like heart attacks. And the most terrifying thing, a diary. A diary kept in Vivienne's handwriting, detailing each of her victims, the people she called targets, how she found them, how she deceived them, how she manipulated them. Everything was there. Marcus Chen's page read, "Marcus was very easy. Lonely, estranged from his family, wealthy. I made him dependent on me in 6 months. I had him transfer his company to me. Then, he was no longer necessary. Digoxin, in slow doses. It will look like a heart attack. Perfect. Theodore Brennan. Old, already sick. Just needed to speed things up. Warfarin plus aspirin combination. Internal bleeding. Normal for his age." And the last page was Ethan. "Ethan is different. Younger, healthier, more careful. But his mother is the weak point. First, I need to drive a wedge between him and his mother. Then I need to isolate him completely. After he transfers his assets. An accident. By car, perhaps. Or drowning. I haven't decided yet." Reading it made me sick. This woman was planning my son's death, calmly in detail. The police, with the FBI's involvement, reopened the case of Marcus Chen's disappearance. Vivienne's entire past was scrutinized, and the truth that emerged was horrifying. Vivienne Calloway wasn't even her real name. Her real name was Sylvia Vance. At 16, she had poisoned her mother to death. She had been tried in juvenile court, but because she was underage, her records were sealed. When she was released at 21, she had changed her identity and started a new life. A life as a serial killer. At least 7 men. 7 wealthy, lonely, easily manipulated men. She had killed them all. After Vivienne was arrested, the police called Ethan. They told him everything. At first, he didn't believe it. "No, that's impossible. Vivienne isn't like that. This must be a conspiracy." But then they showed him the evidence. The diary, the poisons, Marcus Chen's file, and Ethan's own page. My son collapsed. He completely collapsed. They took him to the hospital. He was in shock. He couldn't speak for a week, didn't eat, just stared at the blank walls. I was at the hospital with him every day. I held his hand, stroked his hair, whispered to him, "I'm here, son. I'll always be here." On the 8th day, Ethan spoke. "Mom," he said, his voice breaking. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." Tears streamed down my face. "No, son. You were the victim. This wasn't your fault." "But I didn't believe you. I pushed you away. Shh. It doesn't matter. You're safe. That's what matters." Ethan cried. For the first time in years, I saw my son truly crying. I held him in my arms, just as I had when he was little. It's all over, son, I said. You're safe now. In April, Vivienne Calloway's or Sylvia Vance's trial began. It made a big splash in the media. She was dubbed the Black Widow Killer. I was called to testify at the trial. Lin Chen was there too. So was Theodore Brennan's nephew. When I saw Vivienne in the courtroom, she had changed. She was no longer that cold, controlled woman. Her hair was disheveled, her face was pale, and there was fear in her eyes. The prosecutor presented all the evidence: the diary, the poisons, the forged documents, the witness statements. Vivienne's lawyer claimed that my client has psychological problems, but no one believed him. The jury reached its verdict in just 3 hours, guilty on all counts. 7 counts of first-degree murder, multiple counts of attempted murder, fraud, forgery. The judge announced the sentence: life imprisonment without parole. Vivienne's face went pale. No, she whispered. No, this is unfair. I was just... You were trying to survive? The judge said coldly. By killing 7 innocent people? By tearing apart their families? No, Miss Vance, you were a predator, and society must be protected from you. The gavel fell. As they led Vivienne away, she looked at me. There was hatred in her eyes. But there was also something else. Fear. For the first time, Vivienne Calloway was truly afraid. After the trial, life slowly returned to normal, but normal was no longer what it had been. Ethan started therapy. He found a therapist, took medication for PTSD. He had tough days. Some nights he'd call me and cry for hours. How could I have been so blind, Mom? How could I not have seen? Because he was a professional, son, I said. He was an expert at manipulating you. Don't blame yourself. But Ethan struggled to forgive himself. In May, he came to visit me one day. He had a box in his hand. Mom, he said, I want to give you something. I opened the box. Inside were old photos. His father and me, young and happy. Ethan's childhood photos. Family pictures. These are the photos Vivienne threw away, I said. Yes. I found them in the attic. She hadn't thrown them away, just hidden them. I think she planned to destroy everything one day. But she didn't have time. Tears streamed down my face. Thank you, son. Ethan sat down next to me. Mom, I want to tell you something else. I've decided not to sell the company. I'm going to protect my father's legacy. And I'm going to stay in Portland. I want to be close to you. My heart swelled with joy. Really? Yes. I was going to lose you, Mom. And I realized that you are the most important person in my life. You always have been. I had forgotten. I hugged my son. I love you so much, Ethan. I love you too, Mom. In June, Lin Chen came to visit Portland. I hosted her at my home. We drank tea together, sat in the garden. We couldn't find Marcus, Lin said quietly. The FBI searched everywhere, but they couldn't find his body. Vivienne won't say where he is. I'm sorry, Lin, but at least justice has been served. Vivienne is in prison. She can't hurt anyone else now. Lin looked at me. This is thanks to you, Martha. You were brave. You saved your son. And maybe you saved others too. What do you mean? The FBI thinks Vivienne had other targets. There were unfinished plans in her diary. Maybe 3, maybe 4 more people. But you stopped her. You saved their lives. Have you ever thought about how many lives one person's courage can save? July arrived. Portland was hot and sunny. The lavender in my garden was in bloom. Ethan was now visiting me twice a week. We ate together, went for walks, talked. We really talked. One day, while sitting in the garden, Ethan said something. Mom, I met someone. My heart skipped a beat. Oh, don't worry, he said with a smile. I'm being very careful this time. Her name is Sarah. She's a childhood friend. I've known her since high school. She recently got divorced. And We started seeing each other again. How do you feel? And I'm nervous, he admitted. I'm afraid of every woman now. What if she's like Vivienne? What if I get hurt again? But you know Sarah. You've known her for years. I know. Maybe that's why it feels right. He paused. I want to introduce her to you. Next week. If you're available. I smiled. Of course I'm available, son. August. I met Sarah. She was warm, sincere, and unassuming. She was an elementary school teacher. Her eyes lit up when she talked about Ethan, but she was also attentive and respectful. She listened to me, asked questions, showed interest, and, most importantly, she was real. She wasn't perfect like Vivienne. Her hair was a bit messy. She wore no makeup. Her clothes were simple, not from a boutique. But her smile was real. Her eyes were real. Mrs. Whitmore, Sarah said, I know Ethan has a very strong bond with you, and I don't want to get in the way. I want to build a good relationship with you. I'm glad to hear that, Sarah, I said, and please call me Martha. After that day, Sarah often joined us for visits. Sometimes the three of us ate together. Sometimes it was just Sarah and me, drinking tea and talking. Ethan was changing. Slowly, but he was changing. His smile was coming back. The light in his eyes was returning. He was healing. September 2025. A full year had passed since the wedding, since that bloody cake. Today, Ethan and Sarah got engaged. A small gathering, just close family and friends, in a park in Portland, by the river. Sarah's family was there. Ethan's friends, even Lin Chen came. And Michael Reeves. Ethan stood up and gave a speech. A year ago, he said, his voice trembling, my life was dark. I was deceived, manipulated. I almost lost everything. But one person saved me, fought for me, took risks for me, put his life in danger. He looked at me. My mother, Martha Whitmore. If it weren't for her, I wouldn't be here today. So, this engagement isn't just for Sarah and me. It's for my mother too. Because she gave me my life back. Everyone clapped. I was crying. From happiness. Ethan came over and hugged me. I love you, Mom. I love you too, son. That night, as I walked home, I looked up at the sky. The stars were shining. My husband was out there somewhere, watching us, and I knew he was proud. I saved our son, I whispered to the sky. I saved him. A breeze came. It was like an answer. I walked into the house, and Mr. Whiskers greeted me. I petted his head, went into the kitchen, and poured myself a glass of wine. And for the first time in months, I truly felt at peace. Because I knew, being quiet isn't a weakness, but when the silence is broken, it can be a strength. I am Martha Whitmore. I am 68 years old. I am an elderly mother. But I am someone who should never be underestimated. Because a mother's love can overcome anything. Vivienne Calloway, Sylvia Vance, is serving a life sentence at Oregon State Prison. She has no chance of parole. Marcus Chen's body was never found. Lin Chen established a foundation in her brother's memory, the Marcus Chen Foundation, supporting survivors of domestic violence. Michael Reeves continues to work as a counselor. He specializes in cases involving manipulative relationships. Ethan Whitmore and Sarah Miller married in the spring of 2026. It was a small, intimate ceremony, and this time, the cake was just a cake. Martha Whitmore is living a happy life in Portland. She is waiting for her grandchildren, and every morning, she waters the lavender in her garden. The story ends here. But in real life, Martha's battle continues. If you or someone you know is in a manipulative, dangerous relationship, please seek help. Don't stay silent. Because sometimes, breaking the silence saves lives. What does this story mean to you? How did you find Martha's courage? Share your thoughts in the comments, and remember, there is no such thing as just an old mother. Every mother is a warrior.